What's up, guys? It's been a while since we've had a Strange Case episode, and thanks to a suggestion from user Lukewarm, I've got a real weird one for you. This, my friends, is the strange case of Joe Meek, Percy Evanston, and Don't You Make My Baby Cry. Let's begin with Joe Meek. If that name sounds familiar to you, it should. Meek was a record producer and engineer. He was an innovator at the time, helping to develop things like reverb, sampling, and overdubbing for use in popular music. He was even good friends with Beatles manager Brian Epstein. He famously advised him not to manage the Beatles. Probably his biggest success was the hugely popular Telstar by the Tornadoes, which he produced and wrote. Meek had a profound fascination with the occult, in particular, communicating with the dead. He often recorded in cemeteries, attempting to speak with ghosts. He was convinced his home was haunted by a poltergeist, and that photos he had in his home were trying to talk to him. It should go without saying, but Meek suffered from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, conditions that were only made profoundly worse by his heavy use of drugs. As time went on, he deteriorated more and more. Using a shotgun he had taken from the bases of the Tornadoes, he killed his landlady and then himself. While searching his apartment, a tea chest was found containing thousands of recordings of everyone from well-known acts to one-time artists. This is where Percy comes in. At some point, it is believed that Meek recorded Percy's song, Don't You Make My Baby Cry, and released it as a single. However, due to the rarity, obscurity, and question as to whether this 45 even exists, has created a vinyl treasure hunt that has confounded collectors for decades. Looking up Percy on Google brings up threads, articles, and creeping drawings of him that look suspiciously like the Zodiac Killer. The most useful link I came across was a Reddit post that pretty much summed up everything. The most interesting piece of it, though, was a post from somebody who claimed to be related to Percy. He said, "My granddad, I won't say his real name on here, sang vocals for producer Joe Meek in 1964 when he was 15, under the name Percy Evanston. The song was called Don't You Make My Baby Cry. He currently resides in an elderly care home in London. The song is available on iTunes, Spotify, etc. Yet my granddad didn't receive a penny then and doesn't receive a penny now." Joe Meek was the songwriter and producer, so his estate gets the majority of the money. The estate of Jeff Goddard, who played piano and sang backing vocals on the track, gets some money, yet Percy himself gets nothing. There was also a user on YouTube who claimed to own a collection of the 45s. He would agree to sell them to people who inquired, but then never followed through. Digging further will lead you down multiple paths of conspiracy, where you'll be forced to draw your own conclusions. If this 45 does indeed exist, it's one of the rarest pieces ever produced and validates the existence of the mysterious Percy Evanston. So what do you think? Do you have a theory about this? Do you own the 45? Please comment below. Special thanks again to Lukewarm for suggesting this topic. If you have something you'd like to hear me talk about, please leave your suggestion below. You can also help support this channel by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, watching my old videos, and I will see you guys next time. Welcome back to another episode of The Strange Case of. Today I have another obscure band from the 60s that hopefully will one day have their material released and enjoyed. This is The Strange Case of Weird Harold. The group was one of many that performed in the San Francisco music scene of the 1960s. The band consisted of Billy Dean Andrus and Paul Ziegler on guitar, with Patrick McIntyre and bassist Cecil Bollinger. The group played a number of shows at the Fillmore, and notably the Matrix. The Matrix show is important, as the venue was known to record all of their performances. It's possible that this live tape exists, and just needs to be located in the archives. The group apparently released a 45 and even recorded an album that never saw the light of day. The songs released on the singles Saratoga James and Just Yesterday can be found on YouTube. They're both great tracks, and after hearing them, it's hard to believe the group was never released commercially. The tracks are beautiful and feature some fantastic guitar work and vocal harmonies. The band eventually faded into history, but guitarist Billy Dean would be immortalized in 2 tracks after his death from a drug overdose. Jorma Culkin wrote Ode to Billy Dean, and the Doobie Brothers wrote Blackwater. In 2009, a Rock Archaeology 101 blog wrote an article about the group that resulted in the members of the band, Patrick and Cecil, reaching out and providing more info on the legend. According to them, the album does indeed exist, and they hope to someday release it. In addition to this article sparking renewed interest in the group, a Lost Media Wiki page has been created that will hopefully help continue the search. On that particular page, a user commented their knowledge of the group. I won't quote the whole thing, but some interesting tidbits include that the band also played one engagement at the Fillmore Auditorium as an opening act and as an audition for possible future engagements. The group was nervous and didn't play their best, so they were never asked back. Weird Harold also played a high school prom as an opening act for Creedence Clearwater Revival, another San Jose area group at the time. Another mystery is the whereabouts of the other guitarist, Paul Ziegler. Not much is known about what happened to him and where he may be today. I'm going to link everything down below in the description, and I encourage anybody who has any information on the group to add to the wiki so we can give this group the recognition they deserve and get some more information about them. A special thanks to YouTube user for suggesting this and providing the link to the Rock Archaeology article. Thank you again so much for watching. If you have something you'd like to hear me talk about, please leave your suggestion below. If you want to help support this channel, like, share, comment, subscribe, check out my old videos, and I will see you guys next. Jimi Hendrix died in September of 1970. Since then, numerous recordings, demos, and live sessions have been officially and unofficially released. However, there is one collection of material that has eluded fans for decades and is considered by many to be the jewel of unheard Jimi Hendrix recordings, the Black Gold tape. As of today, only 4 of the tape's tracks have ever been officially released: Machine Gun, Drifting, and Stepping Stone, which are demoed on the tape but were eventually recorded by Hendrix in the studio, and Suddenly November Morning, which was released from the original tape. Black Gold was recorded by Jimi in a hotel in New York. The tape was made by him alone on an acoustic guitar. Black Gold wasn't only to be an album, though. Hendrix had much greater plans for the project. Eric Burden of The Animals recalled, "I remember Jimi telling me about his idea for Black Gold, an autobiographical multi-song fantasy piece he had been working on. Jimi intended it to accompany an animated feature about a black rock star, himself on the road. 40 minutes of fresh, new material that clearly demonstrated the direction Jimi was headed in. He talked excitedly about the cartoon character that he envisioned." The story itself follows a parody of characters like Mighty Mouse and Superman, which Hendrix makes reference to in the lyrics, but with Jimi as the main character. Nothing too serious, just a fun fantasy story which would feature him as the lead and providing the soundtrack. Hendrix gave the tape to his drummer Mitch Mitchell in a box, wrapped with a bandana and the abbreviation BG written on it. They talked briefly about the project and were excited to begin work on it. After Jimi's death, however, Mitchell could not recall what happened to the package. Another copy was apparently in the hands of producer Alan Douglas. He had heard the tape and felt that although it was indeed a demo, it was good enough quality to be released. Time passed, and the location of the tape became the stuff of legend. Douglas claimed his copy had been stolen, and then later sold to him. Others said it had been taken from Jimi's apartment from fans, and Mitchell still could not locate the original that was given to him. For the most part, the tape was long thought to be lost forever. Then, in 1992, something incredible happened. After being questioned in an interview by Tony Brown, Mitchell searched his home and amazingly found the package containing the tape. Brown is one of, if not the only fan who has ever heard the music. His analysis of the material can be found in the link below that will also take you to the Lost Media Wiki page of this particular topic. To sum up, Brown called it an expansion of Hendrix's sound. The tape had long been relegated to legend. It was now proven legitimate. After this, the tape was given to the Hendrix family estate, who control any and all official releases of Jimi Hendrix. Fans were clamoring for any kind of release. In 2010, Jane, Jimmy's sister, said the material would be released within the decade. Only one song, however, would materialize, Suddenly November Morning, on a newly released box set. As of the recording of this video, no other material has been heard. As usual, below you'll find links to the articles related to this topic, and if you have any information on Black Gold, please submit it to the Lost Media Wiki. I'm really enjoying doing these Strange Case episodes. If you know of any rock and roll or music mysteries, legends, or stories you'd like to hear me talk about, please suggest them below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to help support this channel, like, share, comment, subscribe, check out my old videos, and I will see you guys next time. The Aluminum Dream were a psychedelic in-house band for Tim Leary's Castilla Foundation, which of course was devoted entirely to LSD experimentation. The band only recorded one song, Stranger's Calling, which band member Billy Barth recalled, "I remember that we stole one of Frank Zappa's tambourines that he left behind in the studio. That night our bass player went back to Brooklyn with the keys to the truck in his pocket. It was 20 degrees out, and we had to sleep in the truck, covered with amp covers. We froze, and what made it worse was that we were all stoned. That's all I remember." The band got the Foundation job after playing a 4th of July party. Billy Barth recalled the event. "Tim Leary welcomed us from the porch of the big white house, and we were soon tripping our brains out among 80 costume members of New York and Palm Beach jet setters. There were fireworks at night, and a sunrise I remember as the biggest natural strobe light imaginable." The band was well liked, had many original songs, and played at Janis Joplin's first New York show, along with B.B. King. They also performed at the opening of James Rosenquist's exhibition at the National Gallery in Ottawa. On top of all that, they had a regular Wednesday night set at the Palm Gardens Ballroom in Manhattan. The band lived a life of ease, as many of their expenses were paid by the Foundation and other noted patrons. Despite this recognition, access to money, and obvious talent, the group only produced one single, which you can listen to below. There was also a TV appearance that sparked controversy when they encouraged their young audience watching at home to do drugs. Peter Whitehead also featured the group in one of his films. I was unable to find clips of either of these, so if you have any leads, please list them below, along with any other info you may have on this group. The band quietly broke up in 1969. The music isn't half bad. I wish it was a better quality recording, though. Listen for a very intense trumpet solo. I hope another recording of them exists somewhere, as you can really hear the talent on this track. A special thanks to James Lawrence for suggesting this particular topic. If you have a topic, album, or artist, or whatever you'd like to hear me talk about, please let me know in the comments below, and I will add it to my request list. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please help support this channel by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, watching my old videos, and I will see you guys next time. Jeff Beck, one of the world's most accomplished guitar players, a titan of music whose style, energy, and passion has fueled his numerous projects and bands for decades. Motown, Hitsville, USA, a powerhouse of production known for quite literally turning music into solid gold. The thought of these two entities coming together does seem like a bit of a stretch, but in 1970, that's exactly what happened. The result? Only a few truly know. Today, we'll be taking a look at the strange case of Jeff Beck's unreleased Motown album. The story begins with Beck himself, a longtime fan, as many of us are, of Motown. He was a great admirer of their sound and even covered some Motown-produced tracks on his own albums. Beck said, "I wanted to make a band that understood the Motown feel, then give it more oomph. So you've got a Motown record feel that was also edgy and almost bordering on metal. That's what I was after on the 1968 Truth album, a Motown bass line and backbeat and huge Zeppelin-type drums." In 1970, he had to produce a new record and decided to take that opportunity to record at the famous Landmark. For years, the session and its results were left to rumors and rumblings until Beck himself spoke of the sessions in an article for Rolling Stone. All the information I got on this topic came from this particular article, and I'll link it down below in the description. I could paraphrase, spin my own yarn of what exactly happened, but I'd rather quote Beck directly for the duration of the story, as he puts it in much better words than I ever could. "My producer, Mickey Most, said, 'We have to make an album.' I talked Mickey into going to Motown, the Hitsville house. We were like tourists, kids in a candy shop. I took Cozy Powell. I said, 'I gotta go to Motown, and you're coming as well.' What the hell was I doing taking a rock drummer with two huge Ludwig bass drums into Motown? They hated us right away. They didn't want to know, but we loved it there. And they sensed it after a few hours the first day. When Cozy sat behind the Motown drum kit and started playing like the Meters, they all went, oh, and came flooding back into the studio. It was James Jamerson on rhythm guitar and Earl Van Dyke on keyboards. That was it, a stripped-down thing. They kept saying, where are the dots? Meaning sheet music. I said, there ain't no dots. We ended up with 9 or 10 tracks, finished, not mixed. We ran out of time. Every time you turn around, it was like, hey, Jeff, we got a song. It was like a factory. We went downtown and met Barry Gordy in his inner sanctum. We had to go through 3 sets of locked doors. He said, welcome to Motown. I've got great faith in you. Maybe the session guys don't know, but I know. You got a great idea here. I've still got the multi-track tape, although I bet if you put that on the machine now, it'll collapse into pieces. I made 1 copy onto cassette. That's all there is. Talk about a collector's item, pal. If anybody's got a hold of it, hold on to it. But I discovered what the real secret of Motown was. They were fantastic world-class players. Best delivery, best drum sound, but if you take that Motown reverb away, you got nothing. It's very nice, but it ain't Motown. The whole thing was tuned to the vibe of that reverb. So that's the story from the man himself. Hopefully someday the music will find its way to some sort of official release. Until then, all we can do is wait. A special thanks to LJ Rees for suggesting this topic. If you have something you want to hear me talk about, please leave your comment below and I will add it to my list. Thank you so much for watching. Please help support this channel by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, watching my old videos, and I will see you guys
One of the most persistent and well-known urban legends in pop culture is that the song Love Roller Coaster by Ohio Players contains a real scream of someone dying. About midway through the song, on both the single and album version, you can hear a high-pitched scream in the background. It's one of those sounds that if you're not actively listening for it, you probably wouldn't even notice it. At some point, most likely from a radio DJ, attention was drawn to this particular moment of the song, and the rumor began to spread that the scream was from someone actually in distress. Many theories suggested as to who provided the scream. That it was someone being murdered in or near the recording studio, that it was a rabbit being killed, that it was an actual recording of someone falling off an actual roller coaster, it was taken from a 911 call, that the model on the cover of the album was burned by the honey and horribly disfigured and her scream was recorded, and even that it was from a recording of inmates in a psychiatric ward. None of this, however, is true. It's actually keyboardist Billy Beck doing a funk-style scream that was popular in the genre. The band is constantly asked about the legend, with Jimmy Williams stating, "People were asking us, did you kill this girl in the studio?" The band took a vow of silence because you sell more records that way. And it did sell. The single reached #1 in the United States and #2 in Canada, finishing out 1976 in the number 30 position. While some may theorize that this was due to people hearing the rumor and then wanting to listen to the song for themselves is debatable, as it is just a great song. It even earned a remake by the Red Hot Chili Peppers for the Beavis and Butt-Head movie soundtrack. Most who hear this rumor and go searching for the scream end up finding only a classic funk track that makes its way onto the individual's playlists.
The content on this channel is made possible from viewers like you. Help the channel grow by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys If you're like me, you spend a lot of time combing through the bargain bins of record shops. You never know what it is you're going to find. I was once lucky enough to find original cast recordings for Les Miserables and Sweeney Todd for 50 cents a piece. Most of the time, though, you find the same stuff over and over again. I'm looking at you, soundtrack to Dr. Zhivago. One I often see that brings a smile to my face is Here's Johnny, Magic Moments from The Tonight Show. Not because it's a good record, it isn't, but the story behind it and how it would accurately predict what would kill Casablanca Records. While they would find great success in the later 70s when the company first opened its doors, it was struggling to get by. Owner Neil Bogart was an energetic young new label head whose flash, style, and methods of promotion rubbed some the wrong way. He was simply trying to make a name for his new company, which was overseen by, at least early on, Warner Brothers. He took big risks signing and releasing albums from a then unknown and shocking young band named Kiss. Kiss released 2 records, and both failed to make an impact. Other acts on the label weren't faring much better either, so things were rough to say the least. It was at this point that Bogart decided to do something no label had done before.
joined forces with the most popular late-night TV show of the time to release a compilation album of its best performances and comedy bits. The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson was, and still is, regarded as a landmark of entertainment. Over the years, Carson hosted a multitude of guests and artists, holding his own with his own incredible talents. In 1974, the show would be celebrating its 25th anniversary, and somehow Bogart was able to convince them that the best way to mark this occasion was to release a double album. On paper, this seems like a great idea. Nearly every major music act and entertainer had been featured on the show. All Casablanca had to do was pick what they knew would hit big. And to their credit, they did select some solid performances. Bette Midler, Groucho Marx, George Carlin, Lenny Bruce, Judy Garland, Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, the Smothers Brothers, Ike and Tina Turner, Lucille Ball, Dean Martin, Buddy Hackett, Jack Benny, George Burns, Don Rickles, Sammy Davis Jr., and many, many others. Somehow, almost $1 million was spent on the record, most likely due to licensing, the performances, and promotion. To Bogart, this was actually a selling point, and he included it in the promotion of the record. As would be seen in future Casablanca releases, a promo item was included. In addition to the music, buyers also got a poster celebrating the show and its legacy. Bogart was quoted as calling the record the most historical home entertainment package to ever be issued. In November, the album was released, with the hopes that it would be a huge holiday item. It wasn't, and there were two big reasons. For one, some of the sources used for the audio were less than ideal, and resulted in poor quality, much lower than what would be expected for such a hyped release. The second being that most of the comedic material didn't work as audio only. People liked watching The Tonight Show, not just hearing it. Not only that, but nothing on the record was exactly radio material. There was nothing to make a single out of to help promote the LP. Things got so bad that Carson had to be coerced into promoting the record on his show. Eventually, the album sold roughly 500,000 copies and reached into the 30s on the charts, resulting in a gold status. However, what shipped back to Casablanca was joked to be more platinum status. Even free promotional copies were sent back. Casablanca thought they had a sure bet and ended up losing nearly everything. It wouldn't be until Kiss Alive and the subsequent disco boom that the company would indeed find success. This whole incident would become an eerie prelude to what would happen down the road. You would think that after this debacle, the company would take a more conservative approach to their releases, but that was not the case. Casablanca would continue to do this for countless releases, and even with successful records, the money spent on promotion and production created razor-thin profit margins. Eventually, this resulted in the company hitting very hard times in the 1980s, with Casablanca being broken up and sold to several other labels, eventually coming to exist in name only. Those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. True in life, and true in the music business. The content on this channel is made possible from viewers like you. Help the channel grow by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys
Graham
next
Parsons was a musician best known for his own group, the Flying Burrito Brothers, as well as his association with the band The Byrds. One of his favorite places to visit was Joshua Tree National Park in California. In 1973, he died of an overdose at the Joshua Tree Inn in room number 8. This is not where the story of Parsons ends, but rather where one of the most bizarre memorials in rock history begins. While at the funeral of a friend and fellow musician Clarence White, he supposedly told his manager Phil Kaufman, "Don't let this happen to me." And from there they discussed that he'd like to be cremated and scattered at Joshua Tree. After his autopsy, his body was taken to LAX to be flown back to New Orleans for burial. This was discovered by Kaufman and a friend, Michael Martin, who, after obtaining a hearse, intercepted the body at the airport. They told the cargo manager at the airport that they were funeral workers who were there to take the body to fly it out of Van Nuys Airport instead. The man believed them, and a police officer even helped them to load Parsons into the hearse. The manager didn't notice that when Phil signed the papers for the transfer, he wrote his name as Jeremy Nobody. The pair, nervous and drunk, promptly drove directly into a wall. The officer didn't stop them or inquire about the incident and watched them drive off. From here, they drove out to the park where they doused the body in gasoline and set it on fire. By this time, the body had been reported stolen, and at the park, campers had seen the blaze, as well as a hearse speeding off into the distance. Kaufman and Martin spent the night in LA, but when they woke up the next morning, the hearse wouldn't start. After hitchhiking to a shop to get it fixed, they were back on the road, and were then involved in a multi-car pileup on the highway. They were arrested and cuffed,
but one of the handcuffs was loose and they were able to escape. After they were identified as those who had stolen the body, they were arrested again and charged with grand theft. Much to the dismay of Parsons' family and other friends, the pair were given a suspended jail sentence and charged roughly a $1,000 fine. Phil would host a party he dubbed Kaufman's Coffin Caper Concert, which was DJ'd by Dr. Demento to help raise funds to pay off the fine. From here, the story becomes another rock music legend, with many putting their own spin on the tale. A film, Grand Theft Parsons, starring Johnny Knoxville, loosely retells the events. People remain conflicted over this incident. Some regard it as a desecration of a body and a ghoulish affair that was done only to grab publicity, and others view it as one of the great rock legends and a poetic end to an artist who left us too early. What do you think? The content on this channel is made possible from viewers like you. Help the channel grow by supporting me on Ko-fi, which you can find a link to below. You can also help by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys. One of the very first stories I ever heard about the Rolling Stones was one my dad told me, about how during a show, Keith Richards bashed a fan in the face with a guitar, shrugged his shoulders to Mick, and went back to playing like nothing had happened. Years later, I wondered what exactly happened, and I found out the full story. On the 18th of December, 1981, the Stones were performing at Hampton Coliseum in Virginia as part of the American leg of the Tattoo U Tour. This venue would be the host of the last 2 nights of the tour, which would also be filmed and recorded. In fact, many of the nights were actually filmed on this tour, and some selections would be included in the film Let's Spend the Night Together and the live record Still Life. The arena wasn't originally on the tour, but due to a grassroots fan petition, the shows were added. Most of the show went off without a hitch, but as the band started the second-to-last number, Satisfaction, a fan rushed the stage. Fans running on stage is nothing new, but how this particular incident was handled is unique, and totally in the style of Keith. The fan rushed towards Mick, and Keith took his black Telecaster and clocked the fan. As security got the fan off stage, Keith strapped his guitar back on and continued playing. Keith would recall the full incident saying, "The only reason I did it was because the security was not there. They were 2 steps behind. I'm watching Mick's back. I don't know where this guy is going to go. It's kind of an automatic, instinctive thing. I just watched my man's back, and the guitar was still in tune." In regards to the aftermath, he added, "I bailed him out afterwards. He didn't spend the night in jail. He still owes me $200. The incident is seen in full in the concert video and can even be heard on the record. Mick never stops singing, but the guitar goes silent before coming back in, and you can find a link to it below if you're watching on YouTube. It's probably my favorite story associated with the group. It shows the friendship between the members of the band and shows, as my parents often tell me, always be aware of what's going on around you. The content on this channel is made possible from viewers like you. Help the channel grow by supporting me on Ko-fi, which you can find a link to below. You can also help by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.